Disclaimer: before we get into this topic, I would like to state that I of course have no affiliation with any of the streaming sites mentioned in this video. This is not an advertisement for any service, and I certainly don't have any ulterior motive other than discussing an issue that has been around in the anime community for a long time. So, with that said, please enjoy the video. Every media form, no matter how different, faces the same problem in the digital age we live in. That problem is of course piracy. Whether it be music, the newest episodes of a HBO series, or anime, all industries are affected in some way by piracy. However, anime does differ from these examples in one important way, because anime has a history. Due to the nicheness of anime, fan subgroups and illegal streaming sites were the only way to really watch anime back when people in the West first began showing a serious interest in the medium. However, nowadays, anime has become a lot more common, and alternatives to these less than legal services have become available, leading to an increase in the attempt to fight piracy. Crunchyroll, Funimation Now, Netflix, Anime Strike, and even Hulu are some of the services that have attempted to legitimize anime streaming. This doesn't mean that illegal streaming sites or torrents have gone away, as a good chunk of anime fans still use fan subs and illegal streaming sites to watch old and new anime. I am in no way the first person to make a video on this topic, and I certainly won't be the last. I have no experience working in licensing, and I'm certainly not going to provide the critical change to completely obliterate illegal sites. In fact, that's not what this video is about. One thing that I notice about a lot of these videos is that they pertain to the North American market specifically. Although you may not believe me from my accent, I'm actually from Ireland, which means I have a very different experience with anime streaming here in Europe than others do in America. So, without further ado, let's discuss anime piracy from an EU perspective. While anime licensing is quite advanced here in Europe, there are a number of key differences between here and places like North America. For one, we have fewer options for services. Out of the 5 streaming services I mentioned earlier, only 3 of them are available in Europe. Crunchyroll and Funimation Now offering exclusively anime, and Netflix, which has a growing selection of anime in recent times. On top of this, distribution rights differ depending on the region, meaning that even if someone in Ireland subscribes to Crunchyroll, we don't receive the same list of shows that are available on an American Crunchyroll subscription. It's not uncommon to look for a show you want to watch and see the message, "This series is not available in your region due to licensing restrictions." This same problem exists for Funimation Now and Netflix, and applies to shows both old and new, although currently airing shows tend to get licensed a lot more often in Europe than older classic shows. So let's talk about the important details. Anime costs money if you want to go legal. Just talking about streaming, subscribing to all 3 of the services available will cost you around €21 a month. €5 for Crunchyroll, €6 for Funimation Now, and €10 for Netflix. That's €252 a year, and if you're like me, then that's not counting other subscriptions you have like PlayStation Plus. It is important to note that Netflix makes up almost half of that cost though, so if you were to go 100% anime and just pay for Crunchyroll Premium and Funimation Now, it would be more like €132 a year. Still a lot of money, but a pittance compared to the cost of traditional cable television. Of course, price is all well and good when you like what you're paying for. What's important is that the content is there. This is where I believe streaming services fall flat. Like I mentioned earlier, anime has a history with piracy, and if you want to stop piracy, the best way to do it is to cut it off at the source. If you spend years watching anime on illegal sites, it can be very hard to understand the prospect of paying for anime, no matter how good these services might become. So, what's the best way of convincing newcomers to watch on these websites and not others? For this, we'll have to go to a place that I would rather not draw attention to. When a newcomer begins to show interest in anime, unless they have a friend to recommend them shows, they'll probably go to Google and look for what anime fans consider to be good gateway anime or starter anime. Whether this be through Reddit or a top 10 article or video, it can help to give would-be fans a helping hand. So, I decided to do a little experiment. I took 3 sources that I feel people would be likely to click on, those being WatchMojo's Top 10 Anime Gateway Series, BuzzFeed's 28 Anime to Watch If You've Never Seen Anime, and Anime News Network's 7 Gateway Anime Sure to Get Newbies Hooked. Like I said, I hate to have to go to places like WatchMojo or BuzzFeed, but when searching anime for beginners on Google or YouTube, these are the most common results. So after compiling the list from these 3 sources, obviously with some crossovers, we have a list of 35 shows, varying between relatively recent shows like Attack on Titan and Sword Art Online, to classics such as Cowboy Bebop and Trigun. With these 35 shows in mind, it's time to browse through all 3 of the services in Ireland and find which of these shows are actually available in Europe. The results are shocking to no one. Out of the 35 shows, 16 of them cannot be legally streamed on any of these sites, and that includes extremely popular classics like Neon Genesis Evangelion and Outlaw Star. 2 of them are available in part on Netflix, with Pokemon Season 1 and Code Geass R1, but not R2 available. The other 17 are available in full on 1 or more of these sites. That means less than half of the shows that newcomers are more likely to come looking for aren't available. However, there's more interesting data here too. When looking at which service provides most of these shows, the answer is actually Netflix, despite it only having around 60 anime available right now, with 9 completed shows and 4 more either missing a season or 2. Funimation Now comes in second with 6 complete shows and 1 more incomplete show, and Crunchyroll comes dead last with 3 completed shows and 1 incomplete show. So what does this mean? Well, while at first it might seem like Netflix is the way to go, the true answer becomes more apparent when you look at the actual shows. For Crunchyroll, all of the shows on this list aired within the last 5 years or so, whereas Netflix has a heavier focus on older and more classic anime. Funimation Now sits right in the middle, with shows like Attack on Titan sitting alongside Fruits Basket and Ouran High School Host Club. So, what's the point of all this? Besides Netflix, these services are for a more hardcore anime fanbase, showing currently airing shows or shows that have aired in the last few years. While American Crunchyroll has seen more classic anime trickle into the library, Europe has seen very few of those additions become available here. Although Netflix has been obtaining airing anime as well lately, they seem to be the best place to go to watch shows like Bebop, that a lot of people, myself included, would call quintessential anime viewing. Honestly, while people have been giving Netflix a hard time lately due to their decision not to simulcast their anime licenses, I do think that, in Europe anyway, Netflix could become the best streaming service for anime if they continue down this path. Maybe not for fans who want to watch the newest anime every season, Crunchyroll still has the widest selection for that, but definitely for people who want to get into the medium for the first time. On top of this, Netflix has the very advantageous position of not being an exclusive anime service. A lot of people are turning to streaming nowadays over traditional television, meaning a lot of people already have Netflix in their homes. With over 18 million subscribers in Western Europe alone in 2016, that's 18 million potential viewers for shows like Bebop and Trigun. For comparison, Crunchyroll only reached 1 million subscribers worldwide in February of this year, despite being around since 2011. Although it's important to note that Netflix has a nasty habit of not renewing its licenses, so I could check back in a year and find that a number of these shows no longer exist on the service, so there's that to worry about. New anime fans aren't necessarily going to shell out a subscription to a service based on a whim that they might like anime, especially not younger audiences. So, with a higher chance of families owning a Netflix account and the available anime there, I would say Netflix is the best starting place for any new anime fan. However, let's not forget that half of the list I used for this little example is unwatchable. And while this isn't exactly scientific or a guarantee that new fans will want to watch these shows, I think it's still important. So, secondly, I'd like to look at a much more personal list. A list of shows that I consider to be some of my favorite anime or were important to me. Most notably, let's start with 3 shows that I hold very near and dear to my heart. I began watching anime around 2010 or 2011, so I'm quite a newcomer compared to other people on this website. However, my love for the medium really only began around 2012, when I watched 3 shows that would shape my love from that point. These 3 shows are Puella Magi Madoka Magica, Steins Gate, and Fate Zero. All 3 shows aired in 2011 and were some of the most talked about anime of that year. They would definitely be on my list of recommendations for any anime fan. So, where are these shows available? Out of these 3, Fate Zero is the only show available for streaming on Crunchyroll, with Steins Gate and Madoka being non-existent. Let's widen our net a bit and talk about some shows that I've seen or that I believe are very important. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, Nichijou, Sailor Moon, Serial Experiments Lain, Tatami Galaxy, Hajime no Ippo, to name but a few, are all unavailable for streaming in Europe. I think I've made my point. Listing off any more would end up with me repeating myself, so let's just move on. When you get down to brass tacks, it's just not viable to completely villainize people who don't watch anime from legal sources, because due to licensing and the sheer number of anime coming out every year, it's impossible for these services to have everything that people want. So yes, I think in Europe, the concept of anime piracy isn't quite the source of all the world's evil like some people make it out to be, although I think there is a middle ground we can reach. If you want a way to watch shows that aren't available anywhere, or shows that used to be on DVD but have since gone out of print, then I think it's totally fair to use torrents. Torrents differ from illegal streaming sites because while it's still piracy, there is little to no profit gained by the issuer of the torrent. When you visit an illegal streaming site, ads mean that the website owners are making money off your clicks, no matter how small that profit may be. In this regard, I guess you could consider torrents the anti-hero of anime piracy. I have much less of a problem with torrenting as a form of anime watching, and I think it really is a necessary tool. Without it, anime wouldn't be able to grow to the point it has now. Imagine a world with no way to illegally watch anime, or at least not as easily as you can now. Shows would be lost to the annals of history with no way to watch them. Torrents allow for the archiving of shows that either never got licensed, or were around long before anime distribution was a widespread thing. While I still think licensed or currently airing shows should be watched in legal places if possible, I'm not going to sit on a high horse and say that all piracy is bad, because it would just make me a hypocrite. Let me pull back the curtain for a second. How do you think most of your favorite AniTubers get their footage for their videos? Yeah, I would be quite a hypocrite if I were to condemn torrenting. So in summary, Europe has a long way to go regarding anime streaming. A lack of quintessential shows on top of a generally smaller library compared to their North American counterparts means it's not 100% viable to go completely legal just yet. If you do wish to continue pirating anime, which I can't stop you from doing, nor would I even try, then I recommend you at least begin using more torrents than streaming. I think you'll also find that it's generally a higher quality as well, so really it's a win-win all around. And that's it for this video. I appreciate if you watched this far, and while you're here, I'd love to hear your opinions down in the comments. This is all just my opinion, and whether you're 100% straight edge legal, or an expert on the high seas, I'd love to start a discussion. But for now, thanks for watching. Stick around if you want to see more, and I'll see you when I see you.